Well, hi everyone, it's Alex Absalom here, and I am delighted to be able to be with you today with my friend Josh Burnett. And we've known each other a little while. We've actually got good friends in common with Mark and Anna Burgess in Peru, haven't we?
Yep, absolutely.
So cool. Josh, before we jump into why I've invited you on, because you are like for those well, you folks, you're going to find out that Josh is like this tech guru whiz guy, and he's just got this incredible platform that they've built, which I'm so excited to be able to share with you. But Josh, just introduce yourself to folks watching.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in ministry. It's not actually in tech. And I was a lead pastor and church planter in Annapolis, Maryland. My wife and I moved here in 2009. We still live here and started a church called Revolution. And yeah, like didn't really grow up in the church. Came to faith when I was 9. The church made a tremendous impact in my family's life and in my story, and because of that, I think I fell in love with the idea of like helping people connect with God in really meaningful and powerful ways. And so a couple of years ago, though, was really feeling like God was calling us to step into kind of the next thing, and didn't ever think I would do anything other than lead a church, hopefully plant a whole bunch of churches and make disciples, but yeah, really felt like God was kind of pushing us in this direction of tech. And so we launched another tech company actually. And church.tech came from that tech company. We were building AI tools into that platform and realized, oh, we could create a product for the church right now that would have a much shorter kind of roadmap to it and create incredible value. And so, yeah, that's how church.tech came to be. And yeah.
Well, you've really jumped in it. That's great. So I've been able to look at church.tech a bit, and I think it's incredible some of the stuff that you've and your team have put together. So I would like you, if it's possible, could you grab the screen and show us a bit of the platform? Because I think people just need to see a bit of what you guys are doing and to see for themselves. So
Yeah.
I'll hand it over to you to show us this.
Sure thing. Yeah. All right. I'll go ahead and jump in. Is the screen share working?
Yes, it is. Yep.
All right, perfect. Okay. Yeah, so this is actually once you've signed in, the homepage looks like this. So AI tools for your church. You can even test it out, try it out from the landing page. I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. We'll jump in. But one of the things that as a pastor always felt like a miss in the church was, how do we take Sunday and really, we're putting a lot of effort and energy, especially in the American church, into preaching and designing services that are, going to engage people and help them really connect with God and take next steps and that type of thing. But how do we actually like blend that with like a discipleship strategy? The question that the American church has been trying to solve for a while now is like, what
Yeah.
does discipleship in this context look like? And so one of the things we tried to do, and I always felt like we never quite got to where we were being effective at it, was um, doing sermon-based small groups or missional communities. And so the first tool that we built for church.tech is actually a discipleship tool, and it has a whole host of different applications and uses. But basically, once you've logged in, you'll be able to upload a sermon. You can do that via audio file, video file. The best way to do it is via YouTube video, though, because then we can take that and do even more. You can still do a lot with the audio and video files, but YouTube video works really, really well. And so I actually have a Hannah Absalom
Oh my
sermon.
gosh, she
Yeah.
sounds nice.
I've heard wonderful things.
Yeah.
So here we go. And so I just copy pasted the URL in there. You can trim. So if you use like a live stream or something like that from your service, you can trim it down to just the sermon. You can
Hello,
add
I'm Hannah Absalom.
autoplayed there. You can add the pastor's name, sermon series name. You can translate it from English into Spanish or vice versa. And we're getting ready to add a whole host of other languages, which we're really excited about. And then you just click upload video. And this is kind of like a baking show, I feel like a little bit, where I've already got, we just put it in the oven, but it's already done over here. I'm going to take it out of the other oven. So I'll click on sermons, come over here. Here's Hannah's teaching on, let's
She's
see
talking about,
here.
yeah, words of life and
Yes, yeah. Yep, yeah. So, well, actually, I'll start right here. So the when you land on a sermon, once you've uploaded it, you're going to have a couple pieces of content that are generated every single time. So the first is a transcription. So it's going to have a word for word transcription, really nicely laid out for you. We've got it pretty tuned in on this front so that it really comes out in a way that you could take this and use it. We actually have some churches that are straight up just taking this, copying it into like a Word document or a blog and posting it on their social media for people that want to be able to read
I have to say,
the sermon.
just on that, the transcript, the ones I've seen are really remarkably accurate. And so they've done a nice job of kind of cutting out the little vocal tics we have and all that stuff. So I thought it was really good quality, the software you're using there.
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely, it's nice to be able to have it like already formatted into paragraphs and such. It helps out a lot. So then it's also going to generate two summaries, a longer one and a shorter one, 5 discussion questions, some social starters, and then you can take this and do a whole lot of other stuff. So I'll jump in and show you kind of this standard content. You've seen the transcript. The rest of your content's going to land over here in the details section. So you've got the title of the sermon here. You've got the scriptures that are referenced in that sermon laid out there. You've got a long summary and a more condensed summary. And then you've got discussion questions. I like to say at the beginning of this, like everything that we're trying to generate, our goal is to have it be 90% done for you. So that last percent, all you're doing is editing and kind of filtering. It's way easier to edit than it is to create from nothing. And if you're a pastor and you've preached a lot, or taught a lot, condensing your content into a summary is incredibly hard. I always struggled with this, but it's also really, really helpful, not only for people who haven't, listened to it yet or whatever, but also just as a reminder of what was actually talked about.
Mm.
So this longer form summary, we try to give you 2 to 3, maybe 4 sentences more than maybe you actually need for like a discussion guide or something like that. But you're able to just kind of cut and edit here. The condensed one we made for like podcast show notes or YouTube show notes, that type of thing. But sometimes people use this in a group leader discussion guide, which I'm going to jump into that. That's kind of the primary tool we made first. But yeah, so it's nice and short. Then you've got 5 questions for every sermon, and each question has 3 parts. The first part I'll talk about is the context. So having been a lead pastor and a discipleship pastor, it's just the reality, right? Like, one, you're going to have group leaders that have not listened to the sermon by the time they have to lead their group. So it's really helpful for them to be able to have some context of like, here's why we're talking about this. But also, people aren't listening as well as we think they are. And so it's also very helpful for everyone to have that context. And so we've got a little context baked in. And then you've got the first part of the question is a question about what was taught or preached. And so you have, and it's always going to lean toward the text as well. So even if it doesn't directly reference the scripture that was being discussed, it's looking for what was said about scripture and writing a question about that. And then finally is an application question. And that really just comes from personal, or 2 questions in this case. That just comes from a personal conviction of mine that, as James says, it doesn't really matter if we know what scripture says. What matters is like, are we actually doing what it says? Are we becoming more like Jesus actively? And so, so we bake that in. The beautiful thing is, if you don't like one of these questions or these series of questions, you can click this button, regenerate, and just say, here's what I don't like about it. Even if you want to just be snarky and say, hey, I just don't like this question. You don't even have to use proper grammar. You don't have to, you can just tell it, hey, I just don't like this question. And it'll take about 30 seconds to a minute, and it'll rewrite that whole question for you, give you updated context and application question. And well, even faster, right? So here it is. How can we implement the teaching of using our speech to uplift others, even those who have wronged us? And let's see here. can you think of a situation where you could have used words to bring life and healing rather than harm? And how might you act differently in a similar situation in the future? So just a little example there of that. And then here's the beautiful thing. It's great to be able to have this content, but then how do we get it to our actual small group leaders? If you have missional communities, missional community leaders, how are we actually going to deliver it? And so over here on the guides page, what we've done is we've built this system where you can actually choose a templated guide. You can create your own templates as well, but you can choose a templated guide, make your own, save it, and go to that back to that one. And when you click on this, and I'm just going to cancel and jump into here. When you click on this, what it's going to do is actually import your questions and your summary. And you can even drop in the video. So if I want to change this and have the actual video from Hannah, let's see here. Come over here and grab this. We're about to make this way easier where you don't even have to do this part. It just does it for you. But I'll switch this out. Boom.
Wow.
And I can make it full width. So now the idea here is we're going to send this to our group leaders minutes after the teaching is done, the preaching is done, and they'll get it on their phone, whether you send it via email or you send it via a text message, and then they'll be able to view this on their phone. So now I've got, group leader guide. Anything I change on here, if I click save as template, I can name that template, and it will, even when I upload a new sermon, if I choose that template, it'll use the same layout and format that I created. So now I've got my own branded template. You could have multiple different kinds of content, save them all as templates. You can do that in unlimited number of templates. And so, yeah, so here's our summary. This is, I think, the short summary. So let's see here. I'll just highlight this, click delete, and now drop in it brings up a little menu, drop in long summary, and bam, I've got the long summary. I'm like, that's a little too long. I think I'm just going to use the short summary. Well, I'm not doing a very good demo here, but there we go. Hit delete again, click short summary. That's short summary. It'll write icebreakers, which is just kind of a kitschy little thing, but it's, I think it's funny. So it'll actually pull from the context of the sermon to write that icebreaker. It's not going to talk about scripture necessarily. It's going to find some like ancillary detail and weave that into an icebreaker. And then you've got your 3 questions. So you've got your context for each one, your application, and then the question themselves. And then it'll write prayer prompts. So you can actually, and this was designed to be kind of a prayer experience, like guided experience for your group. So first thing is going to ask for prayer requests. Then it's going to kind of walk you through a prayer experience with your group related to the content of the actual sermon. So you can see praying for greater awareness and mindfulness of the power of our words, that type of thing. Yeah. And then you just click copy URL, and I can text this to my group leaders or email it to my group leaders. And literally the whole thing took a couple minutes. Like uploading that video, I think, Alex, it probably took me 2 or 3 minutes to do.
If that.
Yeah. So
we only did it like a couple of minutes before we started recording. So this really wasn't a big setup in advance.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I just click go to guide, and this is what it'll look like on a computer.
That looks nice. Yeah.
And this is just kind of a template that we start with, but you can change this to look however you want. We're getting ready to have it set up. You can see the URL is church.tech, but you'll be able to actually have it use your domain. So it'll say, your church's web address / this little random key here, and boom. Yeah. So that's the group leader guides. There's a whole host of other stuff you can do, including you can generate clips from YouTube videos. This is only on YouTube videos. This is still generating right now. We've got a lot of traffic on here, but it'll cut your sermon into 30-second to minute and 30-second clips. Right now, you can only just download those. You can't edit them, but we're getting ready to release in partnership with a organization called Sermon Shots, a way upgraded version of this that will be baked into the platform as well. So that's going to be great. Yeah, if you do a lot with YouTube, it will break down your YouTube video into chapters. This was kind of a shorter
Yeah.
teaching, but for a longer, like for a 30-minute sermon, it'll usually give you, 7 to 10 chapter breakdowns so that you can actually delineate those inside of YouTube so that people who are looking for something actually makes it more searchable and easy to find. So this is actually a really valuable social tool. And then the fun place is in this whole thing is the playground. So which you would hope if we called it playground. And this is where you can take your sermon and create all kinds of incredible content. So let's say you wanted to, reinforce what you talked about on Sunday throughout the week. You can actually say, hey, I want you to take this sermon and turn it into a 5-day devotional. So here's, I already went through and did this, but I said, write a 5-day devotional that has a subjective reflection question, a scripture reading, a prayer prompt, and a concrete action step that somebody can take, actually take that day. So here's day 1. We've got reflection, scripture reading, prayer prompt, action step, right? And then if you don't like any of this, you can just say, hey, I don't like step 4, like change it, or day 4, change it to be something different, and it'll completely rewrite it. Or if you're like, now rewrite this to be for family with.
Oh, this looks clever.
Yeah, so now I'm going to have a devotional for families that they can go through together, and you could text out each individual day every morning at 8 a.m. or something like that so that they can go through that together, or text out the whole week, whenever, however you want to break down sending the content to your people, but it'll write this in a way that is now age appropriate for children and or families with children. And you can do all kinds of stuff. You can create social media content via the playground. You can do a whole lot of stuff, and we're getting ready to upgrade
Mm.
this pretty substantially here soon, where you'll be able to actually save these things. So if you create something and you're like, I love that, I want to do that every week, you'll be able to come over here and click a save button, and then all you'll have to do anytime you want to generate that content again is just click the button.
Yep.
Generate social content, boom, it'll create all of it for you the exact same way using the new sermon. So yeah,
That's so
that's
clever, isn't it?
it's
Amazing.
it's pretty fun. So yeah, yeah. And then there's several other pieces of the platform that are really great as well. We have something called prompt buttons. This is all of these are free right now, but the whole idea behind this is we're going to show you how AI can help you do something incredible with just a tiny little bit of input. It'll give you an incredible value add. So you could do Greek word studies. There's a stewardship campaign planning tool baked into this, and I mean, this is way more detailed than you would imagine it to be, without even putting a whole lot of detail in. It will generate a really robust stewardship campaign. So answer a few questions. This is one of the longer ones in terms of inputs, but answer a few questions and it'll give you a whole phase 1, phase 2. It's
Wow.
kind of like a mini capital campaign planning tool, actually. And then let's see, what are some other ones on here that people really like? Tailored formation practices for your personality based on your Myers-Briggs and Enneagram number.
Wow.
it's and it's really good as well. Um, like taking things from a goal to actual strategy tool. We've got some really cool stuff baked in on this front. So yeah, it's
So
a lot of
fun.
so yeah, absolutely.
I love this. So talk a bit about how churches might use this software just generally. How are you seeing folks use it and be effective with it?
Yeah, so we're seeing a number of different really, I mean, frankly, people are taking it and being very, very creative. You can see this is our demo account, so our team's uploading stuff while we're doing this. But yeah, people are taking it and doing some really, really fun stuff with it. So the discipleship side of things for discussion questions for groups and that type of thing is obviously, one kind of primary use that people start out with. But then we actually have people that are using the playground to manage most of the content of their social media strategy, especially as it relates to anything related to the sermon, but they can then take that and say, hey, here's our, you could jump into the playground and say, here's our target demographic, like who we're trying to reach. Help me, write 5 social media posts that will, really align with what they are looking for from the church. And there's a couple different tools on that on the prompt buttons as well. But yeah, so that's one way that people are using it. We're getting ready to roll out some pretty crazy stuff on the social front where you'll actually upload 25 to 100 sermons, and we will train a model based on those sermons, and anything that comes out of the platform from then on will sound almost exactly like you. I mean, it's like, in some ways, it's kind of a cool, almost like a micro theology filter for your church as well, because it will then align every output to the theology expressed in those sermons. And so, it's a really cool way to be able to then generate things like social media. And so we're rolling out a tool where you can plan out how you want to post. So let's say we want to post about our vision on Mondays, and on Tuesdays we want to share about a partner organization, and on Wednesdays we want to do a volunteer highlight.
Hmm.
It will write that content for you, give you image recommendations for like, here's what image you need for this to go get, or to, we'll eventually have image generation baked into it as well. But it'll literally sound just like your church, and it'll, basically take social media off your plate as a pastor so that you can spend more time. And this is the whole idea of the platform. We want to give church staff members, church leaders, the ability to spend more time with people and less time in front of screens. Well, if people are on the other end of the screen, great, but less time just working away on our screens. So yeah.
Amazing.
I
That's so
answered.
exciting. I love it. Well, I've been able to poke around a bit in this, and I think it's a fabulous tool, which is why, I mean, obviously we're friends anyway, but I felt like this would be a really helpful thing just to show folks. So as we kind of wrap up a bit, Josh, is there anything else you want to say, firstly, that you've not said that's important to say, just in terms of, just want, oh, I forgot to highlight this, or
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I, this is kind of the general overview of the platform. There's a bunch of new features that are coming out in the next probably 3 months that it's just going to be really, really rich in terms of what you can take it and do with it. The whole goal, obviously, like I said, is to save time. And like, it was made by pastors like my wife and I lead this company, and by people who are, connected to the ministry side of things. And so, yeah, we deeply care about the work that we're all doing, being on mission together. And so yeah, and like alongside of that, we'd love to give everybody that's connected with you and Hannah, uh, you know, uh, free trial of the platform. You can jump on, use it for 30 days. You'll have to put a credit card in, but you can unsubscribe without ever talking to a person or anything like that. So if it's not for you, that's totally fine. But you get 30 days on the platform. You get 5 sermons that you can upload every single week. And yeah, and we,
great. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So
Okay,
yeah.
so we will put a link to that, the code, so that will be tagged in with this newsletter and with the YouTube link. So please do use that. You get to try it for 30 days. Super generous, and I would encourage you, give it a good run through. And I suspect many of you are actually going to want to subscribe to this and sign up for it, because I think it's going to be a massive time saver for people, and super useful in developing ministry. I love, Josh, one of the things I love about it, as I've listened to, and we've talked before obviously about it, is your heart for discipleship and for disciple making in this. And I love that. And just a real emphasis on being scripturally founded. So it's not some sort of flaky thing going off on its own. It's using AI, but using it really wisely and helpfully. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really
love what
good.
you guys are doing. Excited to be, helping churches and followers of Jesus make more disciples. So yeah.
So cool. Love it. Love it. Well, Josh, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you, and pray blessings upon your ministry. I'm sure church.tech is going to really flourish. It's so powerful and helpful. And if you're watching, go try it out. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this. So thanks so much, everyone. We'll speak to you soon.